In progress.
So we were speaking about that the reason why the Yevonim were made it their purpose and goal to be metame is kol ha shmanim shebeheichol. Shemin is the level of chachma, the heichol is the level of bina, and they wanted to remove the elikus that is in Torah mitzvahs. That's the shemen, the level of chachma, the shemen mishkas kodesh, the holiness from the Torah mitzvahs. That was their purpose. That's what they wanted to remove and undo. So this was the reason that they made like a beeline for the oil of their whole entire concern in the Beis Hamikdash was what was going to be with the oil. So now the Rebbe says, if you're metamed the oil already, in other words, they're attacking the holiness, they're attacking the level of the elikus, you need to draw down from something that's higher than that. The oil that's in the heichal, the chachma that's enclosed and has a shaykhis with bina, is in and of itself not strong enough. We need to draw from something that is even higher than the level that has a shaykhis with the world, even the godliness. We need to go to something that's totally above and beyond everything. So we'll start from Ois Vav on the bottom of the fourth page, from the beginning of the Ois again. To be able to be victorious in this war, it's insufficient avoida that's based on reason, because that's intellect, and they weren't having a problem with intellect. They were having a problem with elikus. Not even the avodah that's beyond reason and intellect, that's connected with intellect, that also is insufficient. The chaya makif akarev, that's called the makif of the level of chaya. There's chaya versus yechida, even though chaya and yechida are both makifim shebenefesh, they're both transcendent powers of the soul. But makif, the chaya, is called the close makif. It's close to us, it still has a shaykhus with us. It's not something that is completely transcendent. How come? Why is the higher than Tam V'das, that's connected with Tam V'das, insufficient? Heichel, like we said, is bina. The shemen in the heichel, the oil that's in the heichel, that's the elikus. So they already attacked and they already dealt with the godliness that was in the heichel. Hainum, top of page Kuf Samach Vav, Gam Hainyonim de Kedusha Shalom Mailam Tam V'das, Eila Hakshurim Tam V'das. Even those things that are beyond reason, beyond intellect, but they're connected to intellect, so they are already something that you cannot have, that they already defiled it. Why they avoided Mesiras Nefesh? How was their victory in the war? Through the service of self-sacrifice. The idea of self-sacrifice is standing strong against all things that stand in their way, anything that blocks the person, which means a toikif atzmi shalamayla maseichel lagamri, an essential might and power that's totally beyond intellect. For example, self-sacrifice, when a person literally gives up their lives for Hashem. This is not a result of some intellectual reason that the person comprehends or calculates and says, logically, this is something I should do, but rather, the person's approach is, I can't do it otherwise. I can't be otherwise. This is the only way it could be, is that I should be connected to Hashem. And I can't do something like bow down to Avodah Zarah, etc. And how does the person have this super rational devotion that he's willing to give up his life for? This comes out of the bond of the essence of the soul, the level of Yechidah. The level of the essential bond is It's impossible to be in a different manner. There's no other option whatsoever. That's what iskashris atzmis is. Since in the level of Yechida, no blemish can get there, no defilement, no impurity can reach that. That is bedugmas hapach echad shel shemen sheyichosim v'chaysamim shel kohen gadol. It's similar to this one cruse of oil that was sealed with the seal of the kohen gadol. That the seal means nothing could approach it. Spiritually, the seal means that the external ones, the klippos, cannot reach over there. So the pach echad shel shemen indicated the yechida, that the power of Mesiras Nefesh, that nothing can affect it. Through the avoid of self-sacrifice that comes as a result of yichidam, through that specifically, we are able to be victorious in the war against Klippa. Just like it was in the war against the Greeks in the simple sense. The idea of Mesiras Nefesh and Matisyo Bonov, through the self-sacrifice of Matisyo and his children, though they were weak and few, they stood with self-sacrifice to battle and go to war against strong ones and many more than them. And through their strength and their demonstration of self-sacrifice, they inspired and influenced also the people of their generation, to give up their life for the sanctification of Hashem's name, not to transgress Yiddishkeit under any circumstances. Through that, they were victorious in the war. And this is all like a knee-jerk type of Mesiras Nefesh. If they would approach it logically it makes no sense. Logically, how do you expect to stand against such a great army? Logically, you're much weaker, you're much smaller. And still in all, this is the power of Mesiras Nefesh to go against all of that. The victory of the war that happens and that is caused through the avoid of self-sacrifice, that is a complete victory. What is it, the complete? What's the Rebbe trying to emphasize with the word complete? The noise falls as avoid the Mesiras Nefesh. In addition to the fact that the avoid of self-sacrifice, since it comes out of and because of the essence, it permeates all the soul powers, until even the lowest of all soul powers, the power of action, because that's the nature of essence. When you're dealing with just a transcendent level, let's say Makiv the Chaya or intellect, it could be it's not core to the person. Since it's not core to the person, it doesn't necessarily influence every single aspect of their being. But Mesiras Nefesh is something that comes from the essence. And the essence, like the Rebbe explains in other Mamorim, is the essence and the core of the entire person. So therefore, it doesn't just influence higher and more developed soul powers, but even the lowest thing like Maisa. In all of his matters, it's recognized that the way the person is doing it, this is a person of a totally different level. It's a self-sacrificing person that's doing this. Similar to what it says about Avram. The simple meaning of the pasuk is, since Avram listened to my voice. But why does he use the word Akev? Akev also means heel. Through the self-sacrifice of Avram Avinu, Paul, he influenced the Gamma Akev Shaloi, even his heel. Shama, hat heard, sensed, felt. Tzivui HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the command of Hashem. So that's one aspect of the victory being total and complete, that it permeates the entire being of the person. Another and a more down-to-earth completeness of the victory is. In addition to that, when we deal with the level of Yechida, the entire idea of opposition and an opponent doesn't apply. When a person is doing a service based on intellect and reason, even with a service that's beyond intellect and reason, that's connected with reason, it's possible there should be an opponent. As opposed to when a person awakens and reveals his level of Yechidam, it's not possible there should be an opponent. Because in Klippa, there's no opposite number to Yechida, as the Rebbe a lot of times brings about, that the Bevua, less lahu. They don't have a shadow of a shadow, meaning they don't have the makif of the makif, the level of Yechida. The most they have to be able to attack is the level of Chaya, and for sure the Koiches Premium they're able to attack. Not only is there no opponent, the Rebbe adds, not only that, when the Yechid of the soul becomes revealed, this also influences the Nefesh HaBahamis. The very materialism and coarseness of the animal soul becomes transformed from one extreme to the other extreme, meaning instead of being in opposition to the Nefesh HaLokis, it becomes an assistance to the Nefesh HaLokis, like the Rebbe is going to talk soon about the transformation that the Klippa and the Umas HaOlam assist the Yid. So now we're going to bring in back to the idea of the significance of the number 8. That seemingly, if the Beis HaMikdash was 7, why was seven candles? We should have also been lighting the menorah on Hanukkah, which is to commemorate the Beis HaMikdash also, with 7. This will also be understood why the candles of Hanukkah are distinct from the candles of the Mikdash, both in the number of candles and both in the time when they were lit. At the time of the Beis HaMikdash was lit Plaga Mincha, before the sun went down, and Hanukkah is only lit once the sun goes down. Because Hanukkah is the avoid of self-sacrifice. That's a result of Yechida, beyond the chain descent within the person. Therefore, there are 8 candles. The number 8, like we said before, is connected with the level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshus. And this difference between Chanukah and the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash can also be found in the difference between the harp in the Beis HaMikdash and the harp in Mashiach's times, or whatever the stringed instrument of the kinnor is. This is similar to the difference between the harp of the Beis HaMikdash that had 7 strands. That will be of 8 strands, because the Avshe Beis HaMikdash, even though the Beis HaMikdash in general, by its Rishon, by its Sheni, was the most sanctified place in the world. Specifically, the kinnor of the Beis HaMikdash was also was extra special. That's why he says Befrat, because the kinnor who inyan Amshachet Shem Havaya, the kinnor is drawing down the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Where do we see this? You see this in the word kinnor, in the makeup of the word, because the kinnor, he says, top of Kuf Samach Zayin, is Oisius Chavav Gematria Shem Havaya and Ner Havaya Nishmas Adam. The first letter and the third letter is Chavav. The second letter and the fourth letter is Ner. This means that you draw down the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is a numerical equivalent of 26, into and down below by the Ner Havaya Nishmas Adam, by the candle of Hashem, is the soul of a person. So as great as the Beis HaMikdash is, and as unbelievable as even the kinner of the Beis Hamikdash is, Mikol Mokim, Hurach Shleim is the Seder Shtalshel, still in all, it's the perfection of the chain order descent of the worlds. And that's why it was 7 strands. As opposed to the days of Mashiach, it'll be a revelation beyond the chain order descent. Shem Havai the Yud Kivavke of above. That's beyond, totally beyond everything. Not the Yud Kivavke of the Kinner. So therefore, Yeshal Shmoina Nimin, it will have 8 strands, because we said before, 8 indicates higher than Seder Shtalshus. Second paragraph on the page. This is also the reason that the candles of Hanukkah are distinct from the candles of the Beis Hamikdash, also in the time when we kindle them. That the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is when the sun goes down. Only through the revelation of Yechidah, which is beyond Seder Shtalshus of the person. We also illuminate the darkness. The loyrak shalagabi like we said before, not only that when you bring the light of Yechidah, the light of the Ner Chanukah into play, darkness cannot conceal, but like we said before, it's just the opposite. It transforms it. Even more so, that the darkness becomes transformed to light, like we mentioned before, that the Nefesh HaBahamis is transformed from one extreme to another extreme. This is also the reason why up until how late can the Ner Chanukah be lit? Until the foot leaves the marketplace. In other words, until the marketplace is empty. Specifically, who did it empty from? Adkalya Rigla Tarmedoi, until it ends and ceases the feet of the Tarmedoi nation, that they were the last ones in the marketplace. But ad, until, can mean that the Ner Chanukah has to reach such a stage where it makes the ceasing of the feet of the legs of the Tarmedoi, just like in the Haggadah we say, Higiaz man kriyash shel shachris. You illuminated us so much, Chassidus says, until we had the kriyashma of the morning that it shines by us. Same thing, ad, the kindling is of the Ner Chanukah until you effect that Rigla Tarmedoi cease. The Tarmedoi, remember, Tarmedoi are those that rebel against the kingdom of heaven. Tarmedoi, the word Tarmud is the same letters like the word rebellious. Vehem is akim b'shuk, and they hang around in the marketplace, which the marketplace is b'chinas shusarabim, that's the public domain. The idea of public and multiplicity, the rabim of the words shusarabim, indicates the multiplicity of the Turah, the Prudah, the mountains of separation, that they're multitudes instead of the unity of Hashem. So the Tarmedoi, and they're in the shusarabim, they're in the idea of multiplicity. By day Ner Chanukah, through the candles of Chanukah, Nasa Kalya Riglo Tarmedoi, becomes that the feet of the Tarmedoi becomes Kalya. Shnei Pirushim, there's 2 explanations in the Kalya Sha'ar, the Ner Chanukah Mechala Mavat Lesser Deglo Tarmedoi. The light of the candle of Chanukah consumes and nullifies the feet of the Tarmedoi. That's one thing. They get rid of it, like we said before. There's no menagid. From Yechidah's perspective, nothing can oppose it. But an even greater thing is that a second and higher level, like we said before, the transformation of darkness to light. That the light of Ner Chanukah affects the outpouring, the yearning. Kalya Melashon Kiloyim V'Kleis HaNefesh. Kalya is from the word expiring and expiration of the soul and pouring out towards Hashem. Gam berigla Tarmedoi, even in the legs, in the feet of the Tarmedoi, shegam hamordim, even the rebellious ones, yavoil b'chias klois hanefesh, will come to a state of their soul completely pouring out to Hashem. Now we're going to bring it back to the first issue in the Maimer. Why is there even an association between Chanukah and Sukkot? And more so in Sukkot itself, specifically the bullocks, the oxen that were brought, that were in a decreasing number of 13, 12, etc., etc. So he says, according to all the above will be understood the comparison and association of the candles of Hanukkah to Sukkot and to the bullocks of Sukkot. Inyan Sukkot, v'gam inyan parei hachag, who is galus hamakifin. Sukkot, and also what took place during Sukkot, the carbon of the oxen of the Sukkot, is a revelation of the transcendent light. Hanukkah is also about transcendent yichida. Bedugma sukkah kipshuta, just like the simple, literal idea of a sukkah. How does a sukkah work? Shemakef salah adam. It encompasses, surrounds the person. Ubishmini, the sukkah is nimshachim amakifim v'netzarim gam bepnimis. On the 8th day of Sukkot, not only is the makif drawn down, but it's called Shmini Atzeres, means that it's absorbed and it's taken in also internally. The dogmas avoid the Mesiras Nefesh to Chanukah is similar to the avoid of self-sacrifice of Chanukah. Should be Elis Kanal V'Chederes Kol Koich Nefesh. We said earlier, it influences and permeates all the soul powers. Zel Masha Shneihem Sukkot V'Chanukah Shmoinen Yomim. That's why both of these Yom Tovim are 8 days. The Misper Shmoina Hu Aleph Zayin. I think in Rishonim there's an expression that the 8 is the Aleph rides upon the Zayin. The 1 rides upon the 7. Aleph Shalamaylam Ishtalshlos Nimshal Bezayin Ishtalshlos. The 1 that is beyond Seder Ishtalshlos, the 8th, comes down into the 7, which is Seder Ishtalshlos. Just like the candles of Hanukkah affects the legs of the Talmud in both aspects. Initially he nullifies them. Afterwards he influences them that they should also be transformed to holiness. So too it's in the sacrifices of the 70 bullocks of Sukkot that correspond to the 70 nations of the world. Initially it affects the sacrifice that the nations of the world will decrease. That's the symbol of the decreasing numbers in the starting 13, 12, etc. Afterwards it influences that they should also assist the Yid. The nations of the world would know what the Beis HaMikdash does for them. They would surround it with certain protective things, either armies or buildings, whatever, to guard it. Through influencing them the idea of the transformation of the clippers. It's now adding to the Migdash. It's also protecting the Migdash. Love is similar to what's going to be when Mashiach comes. When I will then transform the nations to serve him all as one. Then foreigners, the non-Jews, will come and take your sheep out to pasture. Is similar to offering of the 70 bullocks corresponding to the 70 nations. That it says after the 7 days, there's the 8th day, the carbon that only Yidden and Hashem are like that friend that's left over after the big party, like it's brought down in Midrash. Ois test. The idea of sundown goes specifically on the darkness of Golus, especially the double and quadruple darkness of the heel of Mashiach. This is the lesson of Ner Chanukah to every single one of us, every single Yid in the time of exile. The intention of the darkness of Golus is to inspire the avoid of self-sacrifice. Through that, the Choshech becomes refined and transformed to light. Through the combining of the avoid of every single Yid together, at least the majority, the Rubi Kakula, because the majority is like its entirety. If I feel like the mitzvah even through one mitzvah of a single Yid, whether in action or in speech or in thought, He tilts the scale for himself and for the entire world to the side of merit. He causes for himself and for them a salvation. It says in the final paragraph, how much more so I did. Through increasing, fulfilling the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, this mitzvah is connected specifically to the salvation and the redemption that will be through Mashiach. Both Mashiach and Eliyahu, who will tell us about the redemption, are from the 8 princes of men. Inyan Shmoyim Neres Chanukah, the number 8 has to do with the 8 candles of Chanukah. Another idea in the unique connection of the candles of Chanukah to the future redemption. The Kamosh Neres Chanukah, just like the candles of Chanukah will never cease. So to the future redemption will be an everlasting redemption that's not possible. It should be after it an exile. So to the third Beis Hamikdash is an everlasting home. That's never ceasing. But in the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, will come and redeem us and lead us upright to our land, and soon mamash.